Good afternoon. Let's study about the examples that the determiner whose is applied as the subordinating conjunction. The first example with the determiner whose is applied is this. You told me whose message you received. The speaker indicates the direct object with the subordinate clause whose message you received, which the listener says the subject conveyed with the definition of the transitive verb told to the indirect object me. In this sentence, we can find that the phrase of the general noun whose message has the role of linking the subordinate clause to the main clause. The speaker indicates the object that received the definition of the transitive verb told from the listeners as the subject with the noun message that is described by the possessive determiner whose. The speaker reveals the information that the object of the transitive verb received, indicated by the noun message, belongs to an unstated subject in the subordinate clause. So we can analyze this sentence with the two clauses. The first one is this. The first one might become the main clause. You told me a story started from him. And the second example, second conference that the interrogative determiner whose is applied is this. Whose message did you receive? We can find that the speaker transformed the second conference to the declarative statement because the speaker figures out the message indicated by the phrase whose message. The speaker figures out that a story indicates the same object as the object message in the second conference, and by the description in this phrase, a story stated from him, we can find that the story belongs to an unstated subject indicated by the personal pronoun him. So we can find that the speaker links the two clauses because the speaker figured out whose message and a story stated from him indicate the same object. The speaker abbreviates this whole direct object, and the speaker replaces this phrase by the declarative statement of the second conference. Let's read the explanation together. The speaker states the interrogative clause transformed into a declarative clause to be linked to the main clause as the subordinate clause. The speaker reveals the fact that the direct object of the transitive verb told, indicated by the phrase of the noun or story stated from him, corresponds with the object to receive the definition of the phrase of the transitive verb did receive, indicated by the phrase of the noun whose message. In this second conference, we can find that the object of the transitive verb receive is indicated by the phrase whose message. From the description by the possessive determiner whose, that the object indicated by the noun message belongs to a subject, And by receiving the definition of the transitive verb received from the listeners as the subject, the object indicated by the noun message is applied as a direct object in the main clause. The second example that the determiner whose is applied is this. Whose love he likes is important. In this sentence, the subordinate clause whose love he likes is linked by the phrase whose love that the determiner whose is applied in. And the whole subordinate clause is described by the be verb of the main clause. And we also find that the transitive verb of the object of the transitive verb likes in the subordinate clause is indicated by the phrase whose love. Let's read the explanation together. The speaker indicates the subject of the be verb is with the subordinate clause whose love he likes. The speaker indicates the object to receive the definition of the transitive verb likes from the subject he with the phrase of the noun whose love in the subordinate clause. The range of the object that the noun love described by the possessive determiner whose indicates is determined with the information that the object belongs to an unstated subject in the subordinate clause. The second example can be analyzed by the two clauses. The first one, that the determiner whose is applied as the interrogative determiner, is this. Whose love does he like? And this might become the subordinate clause. And the second clause is this. The love is important. And the speaker finds that the phrase of this general noun, the phrase of the abstract noun whose love indicates the same object as this subject. So the speaker links the two clauses by the shared indication. And the speaker replaces the subject of this main clause by the declarative statement of the first conference, because the speaker does not have any inquisitive intent on the object, whose love. Let's read the explanation together. The speaker links the interrogative clause transformed into the declarative clause to be linked to the main clause as a subordinate clause because the object indicated by the phrase of the noun whose love corresponds with the subject of indicated by the phrase of the noun the love of the second conference. The described object by the possessive determiner whose, and to receive the definition of the transitive verb likes from the subject he is the subject of the be verb is in the main clause. The third example that the determiner whose is applied is this. I studied whose sacrifice Jesus Christ loves. In this sentence, the speaker applies the object as the subordinate clause, whose sacrifice Jesus Christ loves. And we can find that this sentence can be analyzed by the two conferences, like I studied a subject. We don't know about the object because it is abbreviated and replaced by the subordinate clause. And as we've studied about the interrogative determiner whose, we can think of the second clause like this. Whose sacrifice does Jesus Christ love? And the speaker finds that the subject of this first clause and the object indicated by the phrase whose sacrifice in the interrogative clause, whose sacrifice does Jesus Christ love, or the shared indication. So the speaker might link the two clauses into this way. Let's read the explanation together. The speaker indicates the object to receive the definition of the transitive verb studied. With the subordinate clause, whose sacrifice Jesus Christ loves, from the speaker as the subject in the main clause. The object, indicated by the phrase of the noun whose sacrifice in the subordinate clause, received the definition of the transitive verb loves from the subject, Jesus Christ. The object, indicated by the noun sacrifice, belongs to an unstated subject in the subordinate clause because the noun sacrifice is described by the possessive determiner whose. We can analyze the two clauses like this. I studied his sacrifice. And the second clause, which is stated as the interrogative clause, is this: whose sacrifice does Jesus Christ love? And we find that this phrase, his sacrifice, and this phrase, whose sacrifice, are the shared indication. So the speaker replaces this object of the main clause by this whole subordinate clause, which became the declarative statement. The speaker links the interrogative clause transformed into the declarative clause to be linked to the main clause as a subordinate clause because the object of the transitive verb studied, indicated by the phrase of the noun his sacrifice, corresponds with the object of the phrase of the transitive verb does love, indicated by the phrase of the noun whose sacrifice. The described object by the possessive determiner whose, and from the definition of the transitive verb loves, is applied as the object of the transitive verb studied in the main clause.